But having said that, having the knowledge of where and what can be done in India beyond what the outreach is already doing, because that's a few and far in between universities. It's just about exposing it to the fact that India has a lot more to offer. At the end of the day, where a student should go, what a student should do is eventually the parent, the child's decision more than anything that the school has to do. But the idea is to present information that this is also there as an option. When I joined school in 2014, I made it compulsory for everybody to apply to their home countries. It helped the most during the pandemic when going overseas, paying 80 lakhs for an online course seemed a little over the top. So that particular year of 2020, it definitely helped the students to have a backup. These are more with the idea of having a backup, because when you have a mindset set to go overseas, you are going to do that. But having said that, there is a large population looking at India, and there are options which are unknown. That's all that we want to highlight in our presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. I believe you start with the questions. Yeah.
We have given away chocolates. Okay. The first question definitely is the easiest one to answer. Which is the oldest university in India? No, the oldest university in India. You want to participate? Okay. Yeah, from very long. Yes, absolutely. And that is, yes. And that was the easiest question on our list. Okay. Which are the top 3 modern universities registered in India? Modern universities registered after 1800s. The first 3 modern universities to be registered in India. Yeah. No. No. No, in India. So they were the University of Calcutta, University of Mumbai, and University of Madras. Yes, so that was the first 3 set of universities that we started here in India. Yes.
India's largest university.
Indian universities, please come join us. Yes, India's largest university.
I'm a little biased, so I'll just go with University of California.
No.
Yes, all of you know that.
Yeah, all of us know the university.
Maybe Delhi.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one goes to you as well.
Good way to start.
First women's university in India. Awesome. And thank you. India's largest private university or state private university, howsoever you put it. Yeah. Private came in much later. This is, of course, modern. IGNOU is government.
That's very.
It's recent. But the largest in terms of volume, largest in number of students, Amity, in spite of having so many campuses, is not as large as Delhi. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
One of my students joined, so
They have uniforms. And my husband's company supplies uniforms to them.
Oh, wow.
So, the numbers are so much. that-
I'm really trying to understand because that is so much more.
Yes, the number of students and the area that they have, they're
But
able
now,
to
yeah,
accommodate.
which help you.
And along with that, what happens is Amity as an organization has separate universities in all the different states. It's not one university which has branches. They are all separate state private universities in say Delhi, in say Telangana.
Yeah.
All of them are separate. Although the managing organization is same, they are all
Which was.
different.
Yeah, the degrees are called Amity University Calcutta, Amity University Mumbai, Amity University Noida. It doesn't say Amity University.
So that's, learning.
Next question. Which is India's oldest private university? Oldest private university? No. Okay, they were a joint collaboration between the South and the East. They've now split. The South has a separate one, the East has a separate one, but the East still retains the name. Yes. Yes. Okay, the city in India which has the maximum number of colleges. No. 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 The city with the Bangalore. Yes.
Who was that?
Yeah.
Oh.
He has a very interesting name. I was sitting next to him yesterday at the opening plenary. His name is Don. I saw it at others. And I wanted to tell him yesterday only, you have such an interesting name. But then I thought, I'd better keep it.
Why you have turned it around?
Which is India's top ranked university, according to the NIRF ranking? Yes, this was easy.
But I see which one.
Bangalore.
I had
Oh, sorry.
total number of engineering colleges in India. Any clue? These are numbers, so even if a close one would do.
Okay. No. If anybody tells it within that thousands bracket, we'll be happy.
No. No.
Give us the range instead.
I believe you will give it to her. It's almost the closest. That's 4337.
So I said 5,000.
That's why I said you are the closest.
Thank you so much. So I guess something for my colleague. There you are.
Total number of medical colleges in India. Close, because this is not in thousands,
Yeah.
so we would get into a hundreds range. Who else would try and make a guess? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Not in the thousands.
It's not. It doesn't cross 1,000. 19,000 seats for 703 colleges. So 650 was close. We will give 2 seats. Yeah.
Okay. So I might go in there. It's fine.
No,
No,
we have enough chocolates to give.
enough. No worries. Sweet treats for everyone.
Thank you.
And this is even surprising for me, okay? Total number of design colleges in India.
I purposely put that in.
Yeah, I got that, but this is really surprising for me, and I need to share this with, colleges. We're talking about colleges, because otherwise this would not come off.
This is thousands.
It is in thousands.
Yes, exactly. 18, right? You ask me to name design colleges, I'll stop at 30. Yes. But it's actually in the thousands. And that's why I put that in, because I was shocked when I did the research.
I'm shocked because there's so much an opportunity for.
Exactly. So when I was doing this research after 21 years of counseling, I was like, okay, there's lots I don't know. But that's what the area is all about. We're learning every day.
Yes.
Absolutely almost there. You can beat everybody else. Okay. The next question, total number of law colleges in India. Law colleges. Law colleges. It's in the thousands, you can give a range.
2,500.
No. 1,200. It's 1,247. But again, ask us, we'll be able to say maybe 30 odd names.
That's what.
Yes, it'll stop there. The total number of colleges in India. And let me tell you, that's the largest in the world.
It's mind-boggling.
It's the largest in the world. India, as a country, has the largest number of colleges in the world.
45,000.
Okay, we'll give it to you, 43,796.
Percentage term.
Yes. And the last question before we start with what we want to talk about, how many private universities are there in India? $50? Okay. More? No. How many private universities are there in India? Let's give the hundreds, not just 300 plus. 400, I'll give that to you, it's 430. Now, a small task for all of you before we start. Name as many private universities as you know in India. Sikkim Manipal, we just spoke. Ashoka, we know. Jindal, we know. Kriya, we know. Plaksha, Flame, Vijay Bhumi. Yes. All in all, 30. We won't cross that. And this is 430. So there's so much resources there in India, which we need to know about. Because when we know, that's when we are able to present it to our students. That's when we can open the mindset that there are opportunities here as well. Let's face it, overseas education is expensive. Not everybody is able to afford it. I'm in this industry. Yeah.
I would disagree also on this.
No,
How
the private
many
universities in India are also very expensive. But those are the names we are talking about. The names we do not know are not so expensive.
That's how we pitch it, because if
Exactly.
you're studying private universities, then why not go out and study?
Exactly. But there are other options as well, which are not as
Yeah,
expensive.
people are not aware.
Exactly. That's the point. I will give you an example here. I'm a counselor for 21 years. I had a child in the year of 2007 or 2008 who went to Holborn College in the UK. It doesn't exist anymore today. It doesn't exist anymore today, but it existed then. And the boy sold his kidney to go to study there.
Um,
I really think an MBA in India would have been a much better option for the child than going to Holborn after selling off his kidney.
I can resonate that with you because I stay in Delhi and current cutoff point is 99.
Absolutely.
So it's so much
Even
pressure
after
on
a
the mother of
CUET.
my son
Yeah.
that I really don't know because he's still a teenage and yet to cross another 3 years into that. But I really don't know whether he'll be able to get an admission in any of the Delhi
Right.
colleges. So then what?
You know, and I found that very strange after the CUET. What was the entire purpose of the CUET if my percentage requirement is still so high?
99% is
Yeah.
crazy.
A St. Xavier's Calcutta cut off at 98 this year. I'm from Calcutta. St. Xavier's Calcutta cut off at a 98. I don't expect my son to score. He's in class 7.
That's the reason. I mean, when I studied way back at Calcutta University, we just managed to get a first division to get.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That was back then.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I never had to go and show my parents.
Sorry.
Cash,
Yeah.
saying
Absolutely.
that your parents are so well off that
Yeah.
you study in one of the best schools in the
Yeah.
country. But Delhi is you just 2.5 years and the kind of pressure the parents have to go in Delhi NCR. So I'm not
Absolutely.
I'm just talking about Delhi at the moment. But yeah, over across, I really don't know. With so much of limited seats in schools and private universities, I really don't know how it's going to go.
So here we start with, we've spoken about private universities. India actually has 979 registered universities. Online, it shows 1170, but there are a lot which UGC keeps removing and does all of that. In totality, this is what it is. And that's the growth in the number of universities and colleges in India since our independence. Look at it. India has a whole lot of opportunities. Sorry, we've just finished our quiz. We had a nice quiz on Indian universities, but we can, yes. So once we've done this, no. Once we've done with our presentation, if you're left with time, we'll do the quiz again, where these set of people cannot participate anymore. Okay, so that's actually the numbers that we are looking at. But ask us to name the number of universities, know the number of universities, we are clueless. And that is where the awareness is needed. And that's all that we are trying to, talk about here. Now, this is the number of students opting to move out of India. And what surprises me as a counselor is they would choose these countries over studying here. Of course, competition is fierce here. We've just spoken about Delhi University. I have said about the 98% that St. Xavier's Calcutta closed at. We in India, actually, honestly speaking, we are not aware people. We ourselves are not as counselors. Obviously, parents are not. And where we are as always very ranking driven. Extremely ranking driven. So we'll just look at the top schools. Top schools, extremely competitive to get in. And the top private universities just as expensive. Like an Ashoka is almost a 13 to 14 lakhs. I'll get Netherlands at 15 lakhs. So why will I not make and pick that choice at all? So that's what a parent thinks. Also, there's always the dream of working overseas, which Canada promises, UK promises, Australia or New Zealand promises. But how much of it is actually met is now the statistics to look at. But at that point, this is what students are looking at. China, the cost of education is so less. Even a medicine degree comes from 5 lakhs a year. So all of these factors which actually, go in here, but it makes me sad to realize that even our own students choose a Bangladesh and Armenia, a China. Germany, I understand education is free, so people will choose Germany over the large scale, but, after Germany onwards, I find the list a little surprising. Yeah, but it's mainly medical, yes. Yeah, Saudi Arabia and the Qatar. Their campuses there at a lower cost. Absolutely. Those factors are there. But when you talk about the quality, I definitely feel we have better ones to offer than these places. These are primarily the places from where students tend to go overseas. The eastern zone of India, I feel Bengal, Assam, Odisha, Bihar, etc. We're a little money conscious zone of people. Yeah, so unless there are a lot of scholarships, etc., we are not moving that side.
So Swaraj presented data that
Yeah.
we also
Yes.
researched, and it came out to be around 1% of the student population from the whole of East is what contributes to this.
Yes, which is
Around
why. Yes.
So the conclusion was that East is, because that session primarily it was foreign universities who were attending. So it it came out not so lucrative for them to travel to a Kolkata and Guwahati and other places.
Last 21 years myself, so I know it is very, very scholarship.
Yes, it is. So we have the KIC fair every year in my school. This year, the KIC fair had 7 universities in attendance. So that was from a number which started in the 30s to a number which is 7 this time, because that's exactly how it is. They are scholarship driven and they will look at places which give a good amount of scholarship. That is with the East, but of course not the West part of India is what we see. But fact is that that there's a lot of talent here which actually moves out, perhaps due to the lack of awareness and knowledge. Yes, of course, at some places it's a parent's dream to send your child overseas. Sometimes, of course, you're born, you know, I have to send my child overseas. There are a lot of these factors in a lot of places. I get that. Even students who come to my school is a privileged school, an international school. I have 95% of my students moving overseas, but that is an exception. That's an exception in Calcutta. These are usually factors that go into consideration when we are choosing universities to study. Now, fact is here, tuition fees are important. As I said, a private university in India will give you the same cost of 12 to 14 lakhs, sometimes even more. You will get Netherlands at a cheaper rate. You will get France at a cheaper rate. The whole of the EU, Germany is almost free. Sweden, Norway is almost free because it's just the registration fees that they take. There's no tuition fees, and the students are very well aware of those. So cost is definitely a factor, and the universities which are not high on the cost range are usually low on the ranking scale. So that is where the factor comes in. Also, when I look at rankings, that's something we really look at so strongly in India. Rankings is something that they so believe in. Georgia Tech is ranked somewhere around the top 25 for engineering in the world. Well, it's not top 25, it's actually in the top 11, 12. While my IIT is at 400 and something. The first IIT is at 436. So, and it is easier to get into a Georgia Tech than it is to get into the IIT in India. The competition, if I'm looking at the top 5 IITs, it's way easier to get into a Georgia Tech. And that is, I think, where the mindset of overseas education actually comes from, because the top end of India either being very expensive or being very difficult to get into. And although India today has a larger number of IITs than our times was 5 IITs, but it is still those 5 IITs only which draw attention. Yes, IIT Guwahati draws attention today, but for its architecture program. So does IIT in Bhubaneswar. But after that, you really don't hear about the IITs. For that matter, I'm talking about undergraduate studies here, even IIMs. There are so many of them now. But fact is, it's still those major 5 which were there earlier that attracts people even today. Even for an undergraduate studies, the IIPM program that they give us, which is the MBA and the PGDBM done together. So that is also offered by a lot of IIMs, but you will see students wanting to apply only for Indore, and at the maximum they'll stretch themselves, that'll be Rohtak. But the IIM Jammu, the IIM Gaya are not things students look at, possibly because one thing, these universities do not come out as outreach. So we don't know what are the facilities available. You rather go by the city, you will think, okay, Jammu, and you will think Gaya, not really the right places after staying in a metropolitan city. So these are, factors which come in. So even if education in India is evolving, but possibly because outreach is not being there, it's not really reaching out to the right kind of people, but opportunities are there. in most part of India. But yes, from the part of India that I come from, unfortunately, education hasn't evolved at all. It was Xavier's, it was presidency. It is today as well, although I have graduated 25 years back. So fact is, not every part of India is developing. I totally agree on that. But pan-India, there's lots happening. And there's lots that we can research on and, bring forward on the table for our parents and students to look at. Sorry, did I switch that off? So these are some of the reasons why I feel overseas education is getting more popular. Firstly, it is getting more affordable. There are, earlier on, as I said, I'm in this industry for 21 years. Those days, people just went to UK, just went to the United States, and that was it. And Australia, New Zealand, if they wanted to look at immigration. Europe is a new addition. So many universities coming up which are now teaching in English is a new addition in Europe in the last 15 years. That's become very popular. Netherlands is a wonderful destination in the last 7 years. Then Canada with its PR options. Australia is now giving 4 years after their undergraduate degree. Which country gives that? So obviously, all these, these countries are using these as lucrative measures to draw people, and there are scholarships available at a time when US is trying to close its doors on international students. We know the top end is not giving us funding, the top end is not giving us financial aid. So Canada is giving us. We couldn't think of scholarships from the University of Toronto. Now you get up to 75% scholarships from there. UBC has a lot of full scholarships to offer. Alberta always had the India Scholarship for Students. And Australia and New Zealand universities have also started with scholarships. I was meeting the universities yesterday. Almost everybody has a 25% off for students. So, in the larger picture, where getting into admission into India is getting so difficult, everybody is not going to score the 98, 99%. It's just not going to happen. And then if you have to depend on the private universities, which are so expensive, you might as well choose the ones, which are there overseas. And the fact of immigration, which Canada promises, which Australia does, which New Zealand does, I think that's also another carrot which is right there. And you believe that, prospects are better there, which are not necessarily true all the time, because you need to find employment in your area of work and not just any other form of employment to be able to move on to the immigration process. And there are many times your immigration visas get rejected. The statistics are not really things that people look into, to understand that this is not really a true picture that everybody is getting the immigration and everybody is getting to stay, which is really not true, but definitely a carrot that we look at. And possibly even as counselors, we do talk about it because that's the way we inform. I do try to let them know, please look at the statistics properly before you take a decision, because after all, it is about the future and everything together. Then this is what it is, the scholarships, etc. So that's making us popular. But now handing it over to Mr. Roy to take up the challenges that
Thank you.
universities. Yes, sorry, I missed the slide. A lot of schools are opening up with Cambridge and IB today. Look at the number of schools that are there. Now, after these curricula, getting used to an Indian system of education is not easy. I can tell from my own experience, my students with A stars in the A levels, after they've gone back to Calcutta University, have done badly, scoring just the 50%, which is a second class, because they're not used to the rote learning pattern. They are not used to writing those long answers. They're not able to do that. So the more international curriculum that is coming into the system in India, and the number is increasing day by day. So, and that is, I think, another reason why overseas education is getting popular. So as universities in India, it's also very important that we are able to, put in our curriculum in such a way that we are able to challenge the students who come from here also, and not just our CBSE, ISC, and our state board students. The new age universities, yes, challenge students, but India is a lot more than just the new age students, just the new age universities.
I believe another interesting program that has recently been launched, I don't know if it is recently launched or not, the Career Pathways program of IB, and so many schools are taking it up. And at least I have met 25 counselors in the past month who are really looking at figuring out how they would progress their students to Indian universities. I don't know how they're getting to universities abroad, but so many schools are adopting a career pathway channel of IB, and so many students are opting for it. And it's a complicated system. Every Indian university is flummoxed at the moment to look at how they would take this children in. But probably the parents are putting their children in these pathways for an aspiration to go abroad. But I don't know how counseling is happening for these children. How counselors are also counseling them to take up this pathway, because it is really becoming challenging at the end when they pass out,
Yeah.
whether they would be able to get into an Indian university or an university abroad.
Because
Yeah.
what happens is India does not really recognize the IB course certificate. Unless, so if you have less than a 24 points, it's not going to be recognized in India at all. So if you have a student who is weak and you've given the child IB and the child lands up with a course, it is very difficult in India because you're not going to get the AIU certificate after that. So it needs very, very careful selection. Of course, I understand IB has the highest fees for any school. So every school will want the most number of students into IB, and that applies to my school as well. We give both the A levels and the IB, but we do try and give the IB to the most because it gets in better revenue for the school. But having said that, IB is not meant for everybody. And after that, future prospects in India does become a problem, particularly for people who do not have that 24 points.
So coming up with the challenges that universities or the I'm good. I'm here.
Okay.
So universities, or rather the university landscape or the undergraduate level are facing. See, we are all talking about private universities. We spoke about the 400 private universities that exist in India, but eventually the number of universities which are government run and funded are the largest of that lot. And we are talking about one, we started off on that note that it's 1.3 million, which went off last year, but the whole population which stays back in India is much larger, and they are going to the government colleges. And how that landscape is changing, probably NEP is doing a lot good, but then again, there is a lot of impetus that is required from the government end. If you see that chart, although I don't know how much of it is visible, it's only 3% of our GDP that is being put back in the education system. There is a lot of red tapeism. There is about 40,000 vacancies available in Indian universities run by the government. So that is the number of vacancy for faculty. Imagine that. And where are we putting these children to? Because if that is where children are going to, even if it is a St. Xavier's or a Delhi college, how many of the Delhi colleges you can name by your fingers? Yeah. You can talk about an SRCC, a Miranda, or a Hansraj, and a Khalsa. There are some 300 colleges as DU has, probably more than that. Yeah, it is the largest university with number of colleges. But we can't, because beyond that 5, 6, where are the rest? But students are going there. They're not getting as they aspire to be. And the cutoffs are so high for those top 5, right, that we have already discussed. So what is happening to this rest 250? What is happening to this rest 300? Private universities like me, yeah, we came off in 2021. There are Ashoka came off in 2014, Kriya, Flame, SRM, VIT, whatever we named, they're all post 2000. And why, if we analyze why there is such a large vacancy of faculty in the government sector and how the private is running, the cost of education is also going higher and higher. That is why private universities in India are becoming expensive, right? And this is getting compared to foreign education, true. But is it so that foreign education is the only ultimate aspiration that a student should have? Where is the nomenclature that Indian universities, the new age universities, are providing all formats of observation and all formats of combinations that are available abroad as well? Having said so, I believe students who are going abroad, they are primarily from the cohort of that 400 IB Cambridge schools. Also, there is a lot from ISN state boards and CBSE schools. But having said so, what they miss, what is a miss in the Indian landscape is the research universities. India does not has a research university. Come what may, all the Ivy Leagues that we talk about, if we talk about, someone mentioned Cambridge University, Oxford, or anyone else, the oldest of them all of them are research universities. Why are they so high in QS or time ranking? Yeah, because research is one area which brings that university up. And even if we are in 400s for IITs, the amount of research that happens in an IIT Delhi or a Kanpur or a Kharagpur is only minuscule. That is why they are where they are. And it is probably also has to do to some extent to the number of years that they have been in existence. Having said so, I mean, there are challenges on the faculty front, there is challenges in the funding front, there is challenges in the level of where research needs to be more brought into the system of Indian universities. And I believe private universities are getting there, right? Today, Ashoka has a research pathway, right? Almost all the liberal arts, new age institutions have started a research pathway. We as a university have also started opening up a research pathway. We do a lot of innovation. So many of the colleges are doing patenting, right? So much is happening, but how much of it is getting propagated? Okay. I work for a private university. I go out, I have an outreach team, we meet schools, but how many of the schools do I eventually meet, right? I have a team of 6. And India as a country is so large, you can't go beyond a certain extent, right? If I'm in Hyderabad, I would probably, so we saw in the previous slide that Telangana is a state which contributes 12% to the whole population that goes out. Eventually, I would also end up meeting those students. Yeah, because I would also end up getting to those schools which are eventually contributing to that lot. I'm not able to physically probably get down to the level where students require more awareness. The counselors require more awareness. And I believe our next slide is only going to talk about that. So what we as a community should try and do to make the students more aware, right? I believe it's time that the school fraternity, and so outreach is again something that has come off in the past 10 years, in India at least. I believe it existed for foreign universities for long, but for Indian universities, this has come off in the last 10 years. So if we work as a cohesive community, that is how we are going to make the kids more aware, give them more options. And this is what we thought of. And on once we stop talking of this slide, we would invite your suggestions, how you think as a community we should work, what counseling community expects of a university, and what universities expect out of the counseling community, right? All yours, man.
I'm going to talk about this from the school perspective. As I said, I come from a school which is a Cambridge and an IB school. When my management is reviewing the placements at the end of the year, they are looking at the top-ranked world universities my students have gone to. Nobody is interested in seeing whether any of my students have moved on to the IIT, or they have gone on to medicine in India, or how many have gone to Ashoka, or how many have gone to an IISc. No, but they are interested to see how many Oxford, Cambridge I have on the list. They are interested to see why IVs are not there, and if they're there, why they're just 1 or 2 of them. So those are questions that are asked to me when they're doing the review of the placements of the year. They're not been looking at the column of Indian universities and all of that, because somewhere they feel, even from a school's point of view, the prestige is in sending students overseas. I think that's the first mindset that needs to be offset at the school management level, that yes, overseas education, great, no doubt. I've been in it for 21 years, but everybody cannot afford it. It's not meant for everybody. We know about students who go, but I'm sure all of you have, as school counselors, will have students who come back because either they are homesick, or they're not being able to adjust to the weather conditions, or they're not being able to submit their assignments on time. That seems to be a latest trend nowadays. Not being so, everybody is not made for those things, and it's not always that we run after seeing how many are actually going overseas. That's a part that my management
Just to
does as
add
well.
statistics, I read that 2 days ago, around 15 to 20% of that 1.3 million is actually coming back.
Yeah.
And when I say this, they're coming back to Indian private universities, because when they come back, they can't get a lateral entry into government organizations. So we, as private universities, I can talk about my statistics, at least 100 applications for lateral entry from students coming back each 3 months, right? So if I add that up, that's a lot. I'm just a new university that came off in 2021, although I'm an institution for long back. But then again, there are so many private universities. So 15% of them are coming back.
We
So-
don't really look at those statistics, neither does the school management, because they come back to the counselor is working on placing them somewhere else, and nobody's really looking into those factors. The other factor here is, as schools, we tend to do one generalistic fair usually. Okay, a long big fair. That's one thing that I don't do at all. I do it country wise, just to ensure that the focus is on the country, because every country has something different to offer. Similarly, I finish off my overseas fairs by September, but my Indian fairs, I do it only in January, because that's the time I start with Indian university work, once you've finished off with the overseas universities. So that helps people, otherwise the overseas universities always overshadow the Indian ones, because they have so many more questions to ask, whether it be accommodation, whether it be visa, whether it be scholarships, whether it be research, whether it be future prospects, etc., that you're not left with time to move on to the Indian universities and really ask so much questions. Possibly you're tired while you get to that section as well. So there is a lot of overshadowing that happens there. So if Indian universities could be given a separate space in school, I think that will be a little helpful in students and parents understanding this part of the concept. See, at the end of the day, we are not the people choosing. It's the students and the parents, but it's just about laying out all options for them. The final decision is always theirs. As a counselor, I am not going to ever tell them or force them that this is the place where you should go to, because I wouldn't either understand their financial situation, nor would I understand where they have family, where they have their aspirations, etc. But having said that, my work is to find the best fit university for them across the globe, and then they choosing which ones they want to. But the idea is to ensure that they get every possible fit that's there, and eventually leaving on the decision with them, and not forcing it on them that, no, my management is going to be looking at seeing how many overseas placements are there, and so I should be doing that more. No, I think that is where the change is needed. We need to be focusing a little more on India and give it a little own space of itself.
Thank you. I believe the first thing that India requires on the university landscape is common entrance, right? We only have a common entrance for engineering and medicine. What about the rest? We came up with a CUET, right? And I believe for the rest of all of you, you must be aware, CUET has not helped really. Still, the SRMs are at 99, 99.5 somewhere, right? So where is CUET helping? And what about that was a revelation for the number of design colleges that India has. How much was it? 1,543. Okay. So for both of you, that's a revelation. 1,543, and each institution has its own entrance process. And not only design, I believe all other universities and colleges are having their own entrance processes. Ashoka has its own, Flame has its own, Kriya has its own. Everyone has their own. I believe UCAS is a great way. Yeah, although I mean, as liberal arts colleges, they can come off to a platform something similar to UCAS, right? Because eventually they are looking at their SOPs and something similar to take them an entry and a cutoff, of course, along with that. So we need a unified entrance process, and it needs to be a process of selection, not for rejection. I believe CUET is a typical point in case, which is just a process of rejection. And it is the same in case of an IIT or a JEE or a NEET. Yeah, it's a process of rejection. It's not a process of selection. Please. Yes, I agree. I agree. Of course.
That's why here we're talking about the unified process of having pre-admissions done instead of everybody having to do this exam one time.
As a mother, I would always like my son to not get so stressful that as soon as he's finishing 12 or say his graduation, and he has to give 10 other and everything is overlapping and maybe from one city to another.
Then it's still less. Some are writing 30.
I'm just looking at maybe a specific subject area and
Yeah.
so when is that I really want my kids to go through that process.
And what actually happens is people doing the Cambridge and doing the IB, the exams are coinciding. Monday to Friday they're writing their board exam, and Saturday they're going and giving the exam. It's not fair.
It's overlapping.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's easier off and choose the other way.
Yeah. So true.
And that's the reason people who have money, when I say easy money at the undergraduate level, they just send it. Why do they have to look at which university, what ranking and everything? As long as they want to go abroad, do their studies, settle down. And nobody likes the bureaucracy inside the country. So that is the reason we are hoping this.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, agreed. But this was more on the note that what Indian universities can do and is trying to do. So yeah, we need a unified selection process. We need to put a lot of, yes, ma'am, please. Yeah.
The UCAS that you telling.
Yeah, so true, so true. I believe it would happen in some time soon because again, not becoming political, but the government has been working on so much of education policies, NEPs getting implemented. I hope things would change in the coming few years. But I believe there's a lot that Indian universities need to do in the context of getting in research, self-learning, an ecosystem where students can be challenged and not the regular system of UGC recommended general education, right? Because all these students who are going out, most of them, I believe, if I'm not wrong, the maximum of them are going out for engineering. That's the first point in case. Business is the next. Yeah. So the general pathway is not working any longer. I mean, you can't go and do a mechanical engineering alone because what they are going to do abroad is not exactly they're doing mechanical engineering alone. They're having choices of liberal arts. They're doing so many other things alongside. So we need to bring in all those factors, right, in Indian universities. I believe this was, again, a very pertinent point that we discussed while we started off on this presentation is all the Indian universities are getting ranked, right? Although we are not able to get into the ranks of QS and THE, but we have our own ranking system. We have a NAC, we have a NIRF, and I believe it's time that all Indian universities put their rankings out, right? because UGC is eventually doing their process. So why not put that out to the community? And do we actually look into, as the school fraternity, do they look into every Indian university's NIRF ranking? I don't think so, right? So that's what we also need to look into, and the school community also needs to look into. Yeah, please.
How the selection? How do you hope you plan to make it?
Okay. So true. Yeah. But eventually, making it equitable is really difficult. The reason is, I believe all of us are well aware, even if all the private universities which started off on a note of philanthropy, they're also not really equitable, right? Uh, because I believe you came in a bit late. When you look at government institutions, you have 40,000 vacancies for UGC. But there are no vacancies in private space. Why so? Because today, getting a PhD scholar to teach in a private university, it's really expensive, right? You got to have a plush campus. All of that makes it actually unequitable, right? So probably in the coming days, people are trying to look into it, but making it really equitable as compared to a government organization, that we have a long way to go. I don't think that is going to happen in the near future, very near future. Yeah. But this is more on the note where we started to retain the talent that is going abroad and probably coming back, not able to settle down. Yeah. So that's on the note where we started off. So yes, we also need to do a lot of more work with the schools as Indian universities. A handful few have teams which go reach out to schools and work with school counselors. I believe Ashoka does, we do, Flame does, Kriya does, Jindal does, Shivnadar does. And who are the rest who does? Asma ma'am? Vijay Bhumi. Asma ma'am? Which are the other Indian universities who reach out to you? Barring this 7, 8, 10 maybe at max. Okay.
Ashoka.
That's what we have been
Yes.
speaking
So
about.
and some not many, like VIT, SRM at times.
Yeah.
Yes. Hindustan Unilever, no. Mahindra at times.
Okay.
They do. Yes. Azim Premji, very rare. Very rare. We meet them here only. Yeah. Ahmedabad, yes. Ahmedabad, yes. Yes.
I don't think this is going to go beyond 15. Yeah. Shall we agree to that?
15, 20, that is.
Okay, 20. How many private universities we have? So there's a lot of
Very honest here,
there's a lot that can happen. I believe, as I said, we all need to come together, right? You also need to reach out. We also need to reach out and work cohesively. So pandemic did a lot of funny things. We did so many online sessions where we invited our university colleagues, right? A lot of them for single school. Ankur did a lot of them. I did quite a few where we, for one specific school, some 15, 20 universities got together to deliver an online session, right? So there can be so many ways that this can be looked upon. If a university does not have an outreach professional, it should not stop that university from being represented to the students, and for the counselor to know about that university and tell to their students about that university. And I would end on that note that as the top 15, 20 of us who are there, we also need to do a lot in terms of making these students aware, not only by talking to them about the university, but probably giving them some hands-on experience to do immersion programs, shadowing programs, right? We do a summer school or a pre-college academy. I believe 5, 6 of us in this space do summer school, right? And a winter school. So these are areas that we should work on and we would be working on. And on that note, I'd open the floor for discussion if we have. Oh, we have run out of time a lot, but just quick 2 minutes recap and your suggestions. How do you think we can work more cohesively? What you would expect of Indian universities and how we would take this forward? Yeah.
Parents into picture matters a lot because ultimately they are the decision makers.
Of course.
They need to choose the best. So bringing them into picture makes a lot of sense. It can change.
Uh, on that note, I believe it is quite possible for school where the cohort is not large, right? But for most of Indian schools, the cohorts are pretty large, right? Like her school, the cohort is 72. Bringing in parents is easy. But for a per se, I'm just quote unquote, if I talk about a DPS, okay, yeah. I mean, that's that. I believe the largest DPS I ever been to was DPS Bangalore East. They have 1,200 buses running, 9,000 students. Can you imagine that? They have some 1,200 students in class 12. Although they are not only CBSE, they are CBSE, Cambridge, NIOS, and IVCP. But then again, 1,200 students. It is larger than RK Puram.
It is way larger than my whole screen size. We are 670.
So bringing in parents probably is a great idea, but we need to do that in selected groups, right? We need to have a focused group and we can bring in universities of focus, 5 of them and bring in the parent. But again, we can't work unless we work cohesively, because you have a calendar, I have a calendar. We need to meet somewhere in middle and figure this out.
Right, because some of the parents, they were asking, I know everybody has, they are time bound, but some of the parents even inquired, do we have sessions? So nowadays, since digital platform, everybody is using, that is one option.
Yes, it works for parents till now, not for students at all, right? So I believe March or April, we were doing a lot of online session for parents of the students who are coming in for the pre-college academy. So it worked for parents. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. I'll keep that in check, that for parents, we should do more online sessions. Yeah.
Where all the universities are there,
Mhm.
they can have, their notifications and descriptions are all there about the upcoming courses. So
Okay.
we keep, the universities also keep evolving with the course curriculum and all. So if that kind of information can also be shared with the schools, so we can always let our.
That's a great idea. What time is it? 9:40. Let's catch. Yeah, we will close. You don't have a session here. Oh, 10. No, give me like 2 minutes. You'd find, yeah, please. You'd find me in the Atlas stall. Yeah. At around 10:30, let's catch up. I'll take, you and I would go, and probably Sanjukta as well. We'll go up to Ganesh and share this suggestion with him, because it's a great suggestion where I believe the app, the IC3 app, can really help.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being in attendance.